Let's look at analyzing categorical versus categorical data. Let's take the two variables stretch windup and strike ball. So to select both columns, we're going to copy them to the categorical versus categorical tab. So to select that and then move over and select something else, you can hit Control, and that lets you like select lots of random things. We're going to select H, and I'm going to copy and paste those into the categorical versus categorical sheet. Okay, so we would like to, we know that there's pitching from the windup and pitching from the stretch. There's throwing a strike or throwing a ball, and would like to see how those are related to each other. And as with a single categorical variable, making a pivot chart is going to be helpful. So let me highlight these two columns, and we're going to insert a pivot table. And we'll just put it right here. Whoops. Not sure what I did. I did something, so let me start again. We're going to highlight those. We are going to insert a pivot table into the existing worksheet, and we'll put it right here. Okay, so now let's get our pivot table going. We're going to bring one of them down to the rows and one of them to the columns. And then the value that I would like to capture is how many pitches are in each of the cells. So to do that, you can bring down either of the variables actually, and we're going to have the count. We don't want the anything else. We can always change things here, but we don't want any of the other options. We want to count how many pitches fall in those categories. So there are 839 total pitches. 143 of them are balls that are thrown from this stretch, for example. Now I don't like this blank. Let me get rid of that blank. Okay. So then I'm clicked off it. If I click back on the pivot table analysis comes up. And pivot chart is actually a nice option. Make a chart from a pivot table. So when I did that, it gives you these options for making your chart. We have all of these sorts of things. But let's talk about different column charts. So I'm just going to choose this first one and click OK. So this one says, if you throw from the stretch, let me get off it. I'm going to click back on it. Let me go to add data labels. Okay, and I'll just stop there. I'm not going to make them pretty until I decide which one I want. So this one says, from the stretch, 143 balls are thrown, and the orange is strikes, and 194 strikes. And so from the windup, also more strikes are thrown than balls. So you can say in both situations, more strikes are thrown than balls. However, actually comparing the two pitch deliveries is a little challenging. We're going to make a few different options, and then we'll come back to this. So click on the pivot chart again. We're going to pivot table analysis. We'll do another pivot chart. This time, instead of the ones that are side by side, let me go here. So now this will say, out of all of the stretch pitches, we can see that more of them are strikes. In fact, we can add our data labels, and we see our 194 and 143. So here it just basically stacks these on top of each other. That's still not my preference. It's still hard to compare. Let's do another one. So let's insert the pivot table analysis, our pivot chart. Let's look at this. I like these 100% stacked columns because it's going to say out of all of the stretches, this percent is strikes and that is balls. So it's saying that out of all the windups, so it's putting the windup and the stretch and just looking at them as a whole and saying how many are of each type. And don't you see, like, the percent of orange is about the same in each case, meaning it doesn't matter what the delivery is. The proportion of strikes and the proportion of balls looks very similar. Now so I really like this. I'm going to get rid of the other two. Now I want to play with this a little more. So I could add data labels. And that is fine, though I would like to know what percent this is. Like if I'm just looking what percent is strikes, I could say, oh, well, the percent that's balls is about 40 something percent. So this is like 60 something percent, but I want to be more accurate. So when we look here, you could click on any number in here and right click, and we want to go to show value as. We chose the count, but I want to show the value as. We could do a few things, and let's experiment. Percent of grand column. So that means overall there's 100%, and if you add up these four numbers, you get the little bitty percents. So 17% of the balls of the pitches are balls thrown from the stretch. 23% of the pitches are strikes thrown from the stretch. I'm really saying out of all of the stretch pitches, what percent of them were balls? I would like to say if this is 100% and this is 100%, how do the other percents break down? And so this is saying conditional on, I know the pitch type, what is the ball strike breakdown? So I could click on the number again. I'm going to right click, show value as. Instead of the percent of the grand total, let's do the column total. Now what does this say? It says if you say out of all balls, 41% are from the stretch, 58% are from the windup. That's not what I want. I want to know out of all stretch pitches. So I'm going to go back again, right click, show value as. I want the percent of the row. So out of all the stretch pitches, if I look at the stretch pitches as 100%, 42% are balls, 57% are strikes. And out of all the wind-up pitches, if you consider that 100%, 39% are balls and 60% are strikes. And so we see that roughly this is what, 58%, roughly this is 60%. So they're similar, they're very similar in the percent of strikes thrown, and this gives us a nice number that you can compare. So with the categorical variables, when you're comparing them, it's the numerical analysis and the graphical analysis can come hand in hand. Some people like tables, some people like charts, and I think this is a very effective way to show the difference. I'm going to right click on all these and hide all field buttons. Now I'm going to do my thing. We go to the plus. We're going to add axis titles. We're going to add a chart title. Do I want the grid lines? You can decide if you want the grid lines or not. So the axis title is we're going to compare strikes and balls for different pitch deliveries. This is the pitch delivery. And this is just percent. Actually, it's clear. I don't actually need that. Okay, let me go back. I want to just make it look a little more pretty. So if I click on the orange, I can format my data series. Let me go to Paint. I want to add black. Let's make the width be 1.5. I'll go to the blue. We'll also add black and a width of 1.5. It just helps it stick out a little more. And then if you ever wanted to copy it into a document, let me click on the entire chart and I'll put a little border around it. There we go. And so now we can really make some statements about how the percent of strikes and balls change or not change depending on your pitch delivery.